Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Patty Giarrusso, and this is Let's Talk Pets on Society Bites Radio. Today, we welcome back Kathy Pobloskie from Lost Dogs of America. And Kathy and I are going to talk today about a very important topic to both of us. And we do talk about this a lot, but in April, even though we're coming on the air in March, it's Pet ID Week and Lost Dog Awareness Day is also in April. And those are two very important topics to us. And so we're going to talk about this today. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thanks, Patty. Glad to be back.
Yeah, so we're a month early talking about these topics, but they're important topics that we should always consider and always be at the forefront of anybody that's got a pet. And that is microchipping and wearing ID tags and the importance of registering the chip and how to do it. And then, when you find a pet and get it scanned and all of that, we're going to kind of condense all of that information because that's a lot. But we can't talk about it enough, especially with Pet ID Week coming up. And we hope that we can challenge everybody that's listening to us and might hear this tape again and again to make sure that they do what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important. And, it seems like no matter how much we talk about it, we still see examples every day of where we still need to be doing more education. And if you don't mind, I'd like to just really quickly share a story that it wasn't one of our organizations, but we shared the story, and it was happy and heartbreaking at the same time. And you might have seen it. A little dog the other day, like a little Yorkie, was reunited with its owner 14 years after it was lost in Texas. So how amazing, that makes us so happy. But to me, the heartbreaking thing of that was when they scanned that dog, it had 3 microchips in it. And so obviously along the way somewhere, another vet or another shelter or somebody put additional microchips in a dog, probably for a new owner, and never contacted the first owner who had working information with that microchip.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't read that part about it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So that just breaks my heart, because if somebody had just scanned that dog and contacted the owner, that dog could have been home years ago. And now it's, of course, an elderly dog, and and of course they're very happy to have him home. But boy, oh boy, that just tells me that we just need to keep doing what we do and keep educating people.
Yeah, because how did the pet get extra chips put in it and not be scanned in the first place? That is a good question right there. Who dropped the ball on that? My gosh.
Yeah.
I know I started reading the story, and I obviously got sidetracked because I didn't get to this part, so I must not have finished reading it. But I was just amazed, and my first thought, like you said, it's happy and sad because the dog is close to the end of its life. And, thankfully it's back with its people, but, it's probably confused and doesn't know what's going on. And the poor owners have, thought it was gone this whole time and now get it back. And I guess that's the happy part, but it's still so sad that the chip was never read. My gosh.
Right.
Good grief.
Yeah. So so maybe a vet or a shelter wherever the dog ended up with those 2 other chips, maybe they did scan it, but maybe they didn't scan the dog slow enough. Or maybe they use bad scanning procedures or
not a universal, maybe not a universal scanner. Who knows? And I think that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because the problem is so multifold, I guess, that it's not just, okay, you need to chip your pet. Yeah, you need to chip your pet, but then you need to register that chip. And then you need to make sure it's always up to date. Okay, so there's 3 things right there. And then, okay, because if in this case a chip doesn't get read or it's misread or not read, then how about having ID tags on your pet? So there's just so much to it. And then for the organizations like a shelter, a vet's office, or other rescue perhaps that might have found it and scanned it and missed it or didn't scan it at all, we have to make sure that they do it right, that it's done right, that they know what to do. They use a universal scanner, and then they look it up on the AHA Pet Microchip lookup tool. There's just a lot of parts to making it all work. And that story is like the perfect example of everything falling apart, except the fact that the first person did the right thing and it didn't matter, you know?
Right.
Oh.
Right. I mean, that's really the very heartbreaking part, isn't it? That there was always a working phone number with that first microchip. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's and we run across a lot of people that do one or the other. They'll say, okay, well, I have ID tags. I always keep ID tags on my dog, so I don't need to have a microchip. Or I have a microchip, so I don't need to keep a collar on my dog. And we just try to harp on that that topic that no, you really should have both all the time, because you don't know that collar or those tags are not going to fall off. If the dog was missing, or that somebody's not going to take them off,
Right.
And then the even though it's sad but true, dogs that are seen roaming with a collar and tags get much more attention than a dog that does not have a collar, because again, even though we know it's not true, it's still very likely somebody's beloved pet. The public assumes that it's a pet when they see it with a collar and tags. So it's much more likely that somebody's going to pay attention to it, take a picture of it, and report it as a found dog.
Right, because I know, and you must hear it too. I hear it too often that people say, "Oh, it doesn't have a microchip, it didn't have a tag, it's nobody's dog." That is the most ridiculous thing I hear. Yeah. And I hear it too much.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We still have parts of our state, and I'm not sure what Florida's like, but where microchipping is very expensive, and we're trying to get into those communities to try to help the people with free or low cost microchipping clinics. But especially if a person has multiple pets, it can be very costly to go in and get a microchip. At some of the, and I'm not trying to fault the vets. I mean, I understand that they need to make a living, but when they charge an office visit on top of the cost of the microchip, it can be over $100.
Yes.
And then if the person has 2 or 3 dogs, or maybe even a couple of cats, they'll just say, well, that's just too much money. I mean, that's my mortgage payment, or that's my car payment, or and they won't do it. And people generally won't pick and choose. They won't favor one dog over another. So they won't just get one of their dogs microchipped. If they can't do all their pets, they won't do any. We find that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I see it at different price points here. And, we do offer free microchips every single day. If you want to get a voucher, you can take it to our Humane Society or to our Animal Rescue Coalition, depending on what county and what's more convenient. And sadly, people are not taking advantage of it like I expected. I expected more people to be like, hey, it's free, let's go do it, this is great. But I think there is a misconception, and part of this talk we should explain to people that people can't get your information when they scan the chip, and it's not on a GPS, so you can't be tracked if that's your concern, or your personal information can't be given out. But then on the other side of that is, if my dog was lost, I wouldn't care if anybody got my information. I want my dog back, so
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that is very true. I mean, there's some people that are very nervous. They feel like that is an intrusion of their privacy, and of course it's not.
Right.
But that education, thing is so important. And we tend to find I don't know if you find this there, but clinics where vaccinations are also given tend to be more successful than just microchip clinics, because for whatever reason, people put very high value on vaccinations. And so if you can do them all together, you have more success than if you just do microchips. But that's not really what we do. But when we can pair up with a shelter or clinic that's doing vaccinations as well, tend to get way more people turn out.
Yeah, it's true, because we did that last year as well, and we are hoping to do more of that this year. Our Humane Society clinic and the Animal Rescue Coalition clinic asked if we would be willing to give the free chips during their low-cost vaccine clinics, and I said absolutely, and so they pushed through maybe like at the Humane Society, I'll say 60 clients, but still it wasn't as good of a response to the free chips, and we're at a loss as to why, but at least we got more out that day, in one day. But it wasn't as good. Like I expected, okay, you're going to give out 50, and they didn't. So I find it disappointing, and especially if people, there's something they have to think about. And okay, so this week I had 2 cases where 2 people's dogs were picked up by the shelter, and they were there less than 24 hours. And it was it was $180 for one of them. And that dog was chipped. The owner insisted it had a tag on it, but I guess it didn't. And she was spayed, but it was still $180 to get the dog back.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Now, like you had said, it's the difference between somebody's electric bill, maybe their groceries for the week. Do they decide I'm not going to take my pet back because they can't afford it? Instead, take advantage of the low cost or free microchips, and then you don't have to worry about that.
Right. Yeah.
But I guess it's just, continuing the education process and helping people understand that, it's not just, I don't know. I just don't know. It gets frustrating.
And I think the good thing is, I think as more people adopt, there's more microchip pets out in the community. But going along with that, we find that a lot of people go into a shelter or rescue, adopt a pet, and don't even think about the microchip. They just assume that everything's been done for them, which it may have been or it may not have been. And, unfortunately, we get a lot of those where there was nothing done with the microchip. It's in there, but it's never been transferred over to the new owner.
Yeah.
Or they've never been educated on, what they need to do, that they need to keep it updated.
Yeah. And that we see a lot too. And that's, that really bothers me, when there's no information, but it backtracks to this rescue or that shelter or whatever, and then there's just nothing.
Yes. Yeah. It's frustrating. And, when we do our scanning events where we go out into the public and just scan, pets just to see if the microchip, and it gives us the opportunity to educate the people because we've got a couple of minutes to talk with them. So we scan their pet for free, and then, we get to provide them some information in a handout. But it just always amazes me that most people don't even know what brand of microchip is in their pet. And so if their dog or cat went missing, then they're really scrambling because then they've got to find the paperwork if they even have the paperwork. And it just takes time. It just takes time that could be better spent doing other things when their pet is missing. But, they make a guess at what, we have a lot of people that say home alone when I think they mean home again.
Home again.
which is a legitimate microchip company. But they just really don't know.
Yeah.
Or they have multiple pets and there's a different brand of microchip in each pet, which is fine, right? If it's a good microchip, that's fine. But, you really need to have that information handy so that if your pet goes missing, you can put your hands on it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. We have talked about that before, and you recommended, making a contact right in your phone with all that information. So it's right there ready for you in a moment's notice to be able to say, here's my chip number. This is the company. You've got their number. You've got everything you need ready, because you never know when something can happen. And generally it's not something you ever expect, like, your yard man or whatever left the gate open or something, you just don't expect things. I was just